My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I'm here with the delightful Malisa Hepner. And she is a therapist, author, podcast host, public speaker, tarot reader, astrologer, intuitive guide dedicated to helping individuals create lives they love. With a background rooted in personal healing, Malisa shares her unique framework for transformation, guiding others to embrace their journey through self-discovery and empowerment. So a big welcome to the show, Malisa.
Hello, thank you. Glad to be here.
So I guess you have quite an array of things that you do. Where should we start? I feel like let's start on tarot reading because I love talking.
Okay,
We're just talking about cards. So let's do that.
okay, great.
How did you
It's probably the smallest piece of what I do, even though I love it so much. I I got a deck for a birthday present a few years ago, and I don't know if you're into astrology, but like I have a Virgo stellium, so I can get pretty perfectionist about some stuff. So I started like with the cross and like whatever. And then I was like, this isn't vibing for me. And I was trying really hard to learn like what each card meant. So then I was like, I Googled, do you actually, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, do you actually have to follow all these rules? And people were like, do you, boo? And I was like, okay, I like this. So then I just kind of started learning to read. I started to get more decks. Like people knew I was super into it, so they'd get me gifts and stuff. And the more colorful and vibrant, the better, because I just started to learn to read the cards intuitively and see like what symbols it popped up in my brain. And I remember one day I was kind of just studying cards and whatever. And I was like, oh, give me the energy. At this time, my oldest wasn't living at home. And I, I said, give me the energy, whatever. And I pulled the Empress and I was looking at it. And the way I've started to interpret the Empress is in your feelings about love, like the lack of love or something, you know what I mean? So I texted him and I was like, bear with me. I'm playing around with some tarot right now. And I'm wondering, are you in your feelings about a girl right now? And he was like, I was. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of started doing that. And sometimes I'll go to the store that's close. I'll sign up to be a reader there, but it doesn't prove to be like very fruitful. So I have a good time and I like the connection. So I'll go do it just to get one or two customers for the day. It's a part of my life I'm trying to expand, honestly, but I'm also just kind of letting it happen organically.
I love that because I do oracle reading very similarly. I will just pull a card and I use the card as a base to get the intuitive download for my client. Which it's so funny because I don't actually need the card, but sometimes people need to see the card to help. And so I love that you've shared that because I was interviewing someone the other week. I don't know if it was interviewing or having a chat with them. And we were talking about tarot card reading because my cousin has this natural gift. She picked up a deck and she started using it. And she goes, and I'm there trying to she goes, Catherine, I can just figure it out without even looking at the book. I said, yeah, that's a gift. I
Yeah.
said, keep expanding on that and you don't need the book. And she's like, what? I said, you don't need the book. I said, just keep going with that and trusting exactly what you said, Melissa. Just keep trusting what comes through and keep trusting, whatever the layout is and that sort of thing.
Exactly. And whenever I learned like it's okay because I was so afraid after watching mediums and their experience with people who come in kind of skeptical. And I was getting people like that in front of me too, like where they're like giving you very little information because they want to make sure blah blah. And I'm
Yes.
like, oh my God, it's not how this works, but fine. So like I would pick up on that energy, that skeptical energy, and be nervous for a little while. And then now I'm like, you can receive me or you can not receive me, and I'm not in control of that, so here you go. But I used to be very afraid, like maybe this or this. I wouldn't go through the like figuring out what the symbols mean, because I'm the translator, so like it's giving me information that I know and I have to learn like what So maybe like I look at the sun card and I'm like, are you feeling brand new right now? Like, are you having like this awakening? You know what I mean? And I have to figure out what way to say it that they understand what I'm saying. So if I used to get nervous during that moment where I'm trying to translate and they're like,
Same.
no, I don't know anyone like that.
It's so funny you say that because when I was starting my journey of like unpacking what I actually wanted to do with all my intuitive gifts, I was doing medical intuition training. I was offering free sessions for people just to practice because they really have
Mm-hmm.
to. And I had this one person came in and she was like this, like the whole time. And then I'm like, look, I said, I'm being shown that this anxiety and this pain in your neck and stuff, I said, it's coming from something that happened with your brother at like around the age of like, I said, I keep seeing high school. I'm not sure exactly. I think it was like a range of time at high school. And I said, it was almost like he was saying really terrible things to you, like really, really nasty things. And anyway, like went through nearly the whole session. And then she goes, that did happen to me. My brother did this to the point that I had to change schools. And I was like, well, if you would have confirmed that when we started, we could have acknowledged that, worked on that, healed that, and moved on. And it's like that resistance people have,
Uh-huh.
it's actually their immunity to change, right? Because they don't want to see that there could possibly be some other path, and they don't want to acknowledge that, or maybe we can undergo a transformation and someone's actually seeing me and I can change who I am right now.
It's very interesting though. I remember talking to somebody at a time at the height of the very tail end of the former version of me, I will say. Like right before everything changed. I was talking to a friend and he said something, and whatever it was, he was calling me out, but I remember feeling really seen, but in the worst way possible. And I was like, okay, this is the first time I'm understanding like how afraid of being seen I really have, even though it's been my deepest desire my whole life is to feel like somebody sees me. And I'm like, how did you use this x-ray vision straight down to exactly who I am? And it was a terrible feeling. Like I was like, I sat there, we were on the phone, and I felt kind of paralyzed for a second, and it was just like, I'm having some trouble right now. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, you're calling me out, and bless you for that, but like I'm struggling with this because people don't see. I have hid this shit my whole life. So like the fact that you're calling me out is uncomfortable. So I totally get it, but for us it sucks cuz it's like I know why you came, but if you could have come with a much more open heart to this, you would have gotten what you wanted out of it instead of what you're getting, because I know that you didn't come here to be resistant. And I know this is your fear, but man, we could have had a better time.
Agreed. And sometimes it's like letting go and being vulnerable and being willing to change. That can be such a powerful thing to move forward on anyone's journey.
Absolutely. I met this lady on my show the other day, and she said that one of the things she asks very first of clients is, are you ready and willing to be wrong about everything you've ever thought about yourself? And I was like, wow, that's really the key, isn't it? And it really helped me to even frame new ways of thinking for myself, because I certainly was wrong about a lot of things. I didn't understand I was victimizing myself. I didn't understand all of these things, and just stuff that expanding your consciousness allows you to see now. I didn't see it before, but I understand sometimes I'm still going to be wrong, and I got to be willing to see that and say it.
And that's like, it's so funny because I wrote about this in my book, and I know it's about you, this podcast, but it's funny because there's this pillar or this guideline, and it's called willingness to change. And it's actually all about that, Melissa. It's about,
Really?
owning that when you're wrong, or when you only, you only do as well as you know, right? But when you know better, you do better. Like I so believe
Mm-hmm.
that, and if you choose not to do better when you know better, well, then that's on you. Like you're not going to
Yeah.
ever shift your life. You're not going to step out of the cycle that you're in. When you know better and you can do better, just do it. And people are like, oh, but I'm so afraid to. And it's like, well, aren't you more afraid of staying in that same loop for the rest of your life than actually empowering yourself and stepping out of that so you can have a life that you want to live instead?
Right. No, but that's not like some placating statement. That's the truth, because
Mhm.
for me, it was the fear of change becoming less painful than the fear of staying the same. Like I for so long it was, "Oh, that all roads lead to bad if I do that. If I leave this part of my life, the things I've always known and security and comfort and things like that. If I leave, what will happen? Oh, I won't have security. I won't have whatever." And I'm like, "Baby, do you have security now? Because you want to die. So like what are you actually trying to avoid here?" And yeah, it was small steps, but honestly, that's where astrology really changed my life because it felt like such a blueprint that I could look at. And my North Node's in Leo, and all I had to hear was, "You're meant to find a stage." And I was like, there we go. I knew it. I knew it. Like, because my whole life I've felt I was pulled to this purpose my whole life. Like, I was on a trajectory forever. I've always known what my purpose on this earth was. Like, I knew at a very young age, these things are happening because I'm going to get through them and I'm going to share with others how to get through them. And I'm going to give people hope and the light and whatever. And yeah, it's grown and evolved and transformed, but it's the same. I'm not a whole lot different than that little girl who saw a vision for herself and said, "This isn't happening for no reason, honey. Like, your life does suck, but it's not happening for no reason, you know?" And then when I could see it all laid out, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense to me." Like, yes.
It's so funny because I've gone through, I think since, what are we in now? Near the end of June. My birthday's next month, so I'm coming up to my solar return. Thank you. But the funny thing is, I think since October last year, I've gone through about 6 identity transformations. Like, it's insane. And even, just when I think I've got my masterclass down packed and I've got my, like, who I want to work with, all of a sudden this new information comes in and I'm like, I don't want to work with those people anymore.
Me
You know,
too. That's been the exact road I've been on. Yes. Like, I know the end result is I want to share my light with others, but like,
how are you going to get
how?
there?
I
Don't know.
started a membership course or just a group, learned very quickly that's not for me right now. Like, the pressure to show up when I was going through some stuff in my personal life, I was like, I'm not vibing here. This isn't my vibe.
Well, it's funny you say that because I did like group coaching for 3 months and I had this beautiful group of women. And sometimes I was getting really irked because they choose to show up or not show up, and then they'd watch the recording or they wouldn't watch the recording, and they'd do the work or they wouldn't do the work. And I was like, just do the work. Like, my goodness, just
What are
show
we
up and
doing?
do the work. Exactly. And it was funny because when it was coming, it was our last one, everyone showed up. I was just like, huh, how interesting.
You're
Everyone
like,
is
well,
here.
that's cute. Well,
Yeah. But at the same
mine
time
was
now
so
I'm like,
small.
but then I got to, like, now I'm like, actually no, I'm and it was funny because I did a surrender prayer because I quit my job and I was like, right, now I'm going to allow the space for me to do what I need to do. And I'm like, hey universe, what am I meant to be doing? And I just kept asking that every night before I went to bed. I do this prayer. Like, I recommend this for my clients. If you have a question you need answered, just say it before you go to bed. And then when you wake up in the morning, see what comes up. Like, I'm right, right straight away.
Ooh,
Or because
love that.
sometimes if you wake up and you go to the toilet, it's gone. It's just what happens. You know, so I was like, oh, show me who I'm meant to be working with. And all of a sudden I have all these new intuitive healing clients. I'm like, message received. Thank you. And then I get, like, popped onto this connection call, which I really didn't want to get on. And this is why it's so important to honor your commitments and show up, even if you're like at 10%, just show up 100% at your 10%, right? So I showed up and I was like, it was dark, it was cold, I was tired. And then this beautiful lady across from me, she's like, we want you to teach master classes to our students. And I'm like, yes, please. Like, yes, thank you, universe. So it's like you have to be open, but you also have to shed the expectation of,
Yes,
like you said, you've got this vision and you've got this mission, but you have to be flexible on the journey because you don't know the how, you just know the why and the what, right? So you have to try and figure out the middle.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, not knowing the how. In some ways, I love this surrender prayer because surrender's kind of been my word for this
Mm.
year, honestly. I mean, and for really the last half of last year even because I've had to learn how to live in my feminine. I lived in survival mode, which is very masculine, my whole life for 44 years. I just turned 45 on Monday, last Monday, because it's Sunday here.
Happy birthday.
For 44 years, I was in the masculine and fueled by spite, like, oh, I will not be the statistic that you think I am. Oh, I will show you. blah blah, and trying to control everything. And when I started this, because I also quit my job and started my show, I became a private practice therapist, but even that has been so slow to grow. And I mean, truth be told, I'm really good at it. So like a lot of my clients a year later have graduated therapy, you know? So it's like, okay, well that's great for you. And it doesn't bother me. Like I just lost one over the weekend, and it doesn't, like, I try not to freak out about it because I know it's fine. And I'm also like I'm really tapping into the fact that like I'm the universe, you know, and that I am the creator. And I've been outsourcing this power for way too long. So I'm really centering in that right now. But yeah, I get really excited about stuff, and so I try it and it doesn't work, so I don't do it anymore. But I don't regret any of the things I've tried over the last year
You
at
have to fail
all,
forward.
because yeah, you
Mm.
got to figure it out. You got to figure it out for yourself, and that's the only way to do it. And I've had a lot of fun.
Well, that's it. And I guess it's like you got to shift from the seriousness of the journey. And even what you were sharing, Melissa, I have tried so many things. So I tried running healing circles. After three of them, I'm like, this isn't for me. But I had
Yes.
to try it because in my heart, I
Yes.
got that intuitive nudge. And I'm like, okay, thank you for the feedback. This isn't for me, but I could happily speak, and I do speak to like an audience, a group of people quite happily. I just step into this persona, not even persona. I just step into my genius zone and I can talk to whatever
Yeah.
level I need to talk. And I know it's a gift. It's part of why I
Yes.
started my podcast too, because I can talk to anybody that comes across on my, like, in front of me. And if I don't know,
Right.
I can genuinely ask them because it's a curious question, right? And
Yeah.
then, but if you're so restricted, if you're so used to those labels and the boxes and where you put yourself in, like I thought I was going to be a medical intuitive for like 10 minutes. And then I was like, no, actually, this isn't for me either. And then the other day I was working with the client, and I say I'm an intuitive healer because I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen until I'm holding space for someone, right? And there was this thing that happened, and I was like, can I do that? And my guides were like, yeah, you can. I'm like, are you sure? Because I don't want to breach any karma. I'm like, what is this about? And they're
Yeah.
like, no, you can do this. And I'm like, okay, just triple checking one more time. They're like, just do it. And I'm like, okay,
Do
all
it.
right, thank you. And then it came up again for another client that week because that's what always happens. And I was like, okay, all right, cool. I know I'm allowed to do this now. So thank you. Let me know. Thank you. Because it was actually in a child work. And often with my clients, I will do the work with them to do that. But these clients have been so tired. They're like, no, their
Yeah.
soul gives you permission to do the work. Because I kind of acted like a counselor between their little 2-year-old self and their soul. It was so cool.
Oh,
And but it
I'm
was
so
like,
glad you did that. I know those are the
yeah,
most transformative even for us. Yeah.
exactly. But I didn't know I could do that until this is the thing about being open and allowing and letting things come through, because and also having permission and making sure that you're in alignment and integrity. Otherwise
Mhm.
you just, and if you get stuck in those boxes, then what do you do? Like, it's like I meet people who are like, I do Reiki. I'm like, is that all you do? They're like, oh yes, we do
Right.
it this way. But then I've met other people that are like, oh no, I just say I do Reiki. I do so much more. And I was like, yeah, that's
Right.
what I felt. So, because people kind of need the labels to relate to. Like, they're probably coming to you
Yes.
as a therapist, and then they get the rest of Melissa as well, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, because listen, I'm very honest. Like when they come to me, I'm like, here's the deal. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you all this up front because a quick Google search about me is gonna tell you all this anyway. So I have a podcast. I'm not gonna talk to you any differently than I talk to people on my podcast. I'm gonna cuss. I'm gonna vape. I'm gonna show up however the hell I feel like showing up. I have like this uniform of tank top that I'm constant, and some days I wear makeup and sometimes I don't, and it's whatever. But all of my magic truly is letting go, surrendering to whatever's happening right then. I mean, I just light up and you get every one of my intuitive gifts, like it just comes right out. And actually being able to like lean in and say, like, I am gifted in my speech. I am gifted in my communication. I'm gifted in the way I hear you. Like I hear things other people don't hear, and I feel all of it. That's something I'm just now kind of becoming comfortable with saying out loud in the last 6 months, is like, no, I am really good at this. I'm a very good therapist. I'm a very good podcast host. I'm very good at these things. And, I used to be so afraid of hearing someone say, like, wow, she's really full of herself. And now I'm like, You're damn right I am. I'm no longer full of all the holes I had from childhood that I was begging everyone else around me to fill up. I mean, that's what I thought, is that like my friends and family will prove to me that I'm special, loved, valuable, worthy, whatever. And they didn't, because how could they? Like, I had no idea how to love myself. So, man, that's been a whole, which really is the spiritual journey if you think about it. But like that whole self-love, self-acceptance journey, that was the beginning of all of it. And then the deepening of that understanding, when you get a new lesson and you're like, I didn't think I could understand that any deeper, and wow, here I am with a new like understanding about how wonderful I am and how okay it is to rest in that and to not resist and to allow, like, yeah, I'm pretty magical. And even like just a couple weeks ago, I started to realize, like, oh, my words, when I speak them, they really do have power. And which I've been so careful about what I speak, but like getting comfortable with understanding the magic in my words too.
Yeah, and then the power behind that as well. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize they need to be accountable for. And I was doing this watch your word challenge. And there's like little things like saying to someone, I miss you, is like in a place of lack and sadness. Whereas if you say, I look
Mm-hmm.
forward to seeing you, completely
Ooh.
different energy, right? Yeah. And things like saying, I love you, but it just actually takes away the I love you. So you say, I love
Mm-hmm.
you, and I'm still pissed off that you did that to me,
Right.
So,
That's funny because I'm learning to use the word and instead of but a lot.
mhm,
Like it is important. You're right. And the lack scarcity mentality is so sneaky sometimes. So thank you for pointing that out, because you're absolutely right. That is a scarcity mindset. And I'm on the trajectory for abundance. So
exactly.
that's not gonna work for me.
Exactly. And it's funny, I got paid by a client the other day and I said to her, may this return to you 10 times. And she's like, that's amazing. I said, yeah, I do it when I pay bills. And for some reason, when I pay bills, they say, may it return to me 6 times. And my husband's like, why wouldn't you say 100 times? I said, I don't know, six just sits with me. It's just the number that I feel to say. If you want to say 100 times, you say 100 times. I said, but I want to say six. I don't know why. It's just in my head. And it's funny because, eight's the number of abundance. Very into numbers. The eight's the number of abundance. And then last night I was going to bed and I was like, oh, it's 8:08 because I get up at 5. This is why I go to bed early. But I was like, oh, it's 8:08 and my battery's at 17, which if you add it together is 8. And because my husband's like, oh, it'd be funny if it was 888. And I said, well, my battery's at
Technically,
17. It is, and because I so look for numbers and things like that. Well, I don't look for them; they just show up in my life.
same.
And I guess that's part of being open to the journey too. Because so often I'll talk to people and they ask for signs. And then they forget to look for them. It
Bro, they're
amazes
everywhere.
me. It amazes me. And even I had this beautiful friend and she was trying to figure out what to do. She had this massive life decision she had to make. And she was telling me, and I said, no, 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 no. I said, you're still in your head. I said, do me a favor. I said, I'm going to do some breathing with you on the phone. And she's so used to me doing this with her. I said, I'm going to do this with you. I said, and I want you to go out and find a tree and hug that tree and then sit at the bottom of the tree, drop back into your body and breathe and then ask the question. And she got a completely different answer. And then she was
Mm.
like, oh my gosh. She goes, hang on. She goes, universe, if this is what I'm meant to be doing, give me a sign. And a baby feather, white feather, dropped in front of her. And she's like, okay, it's a yes. And she's like walking, still doubting it. And then another one dropped in front of her. She's like, all right, I need to do this. And she did it. And she got a lot of pushback because this is what happens in her life. She's learning to listen to herself. And then within 4 weeks, it was very clear that she made the right decision. And
Aww.
I said to her, you gotta just trust it. Like you gotta trust what you want. But again, you have to make sure you're in your body and in your heart, because so often when we make reactive decisions, it doesn't end up very well because it's a reaction. It's not actually sitting there and dropping back into what you actually want.
Right. Well, and I get a little too excited very quickly, so I've learned to that like some of this is human design too. I've been studying my human design a little bit, and I'm a generator. I'm an emotional
Same.
authority. I get very happy very quickly, and then I'll be like, yeah, and then 24 hours later it's a solid no. It is a solid no, and I should have waited. So I've learned the sacred pause.
It's funny. My coach taught us. If it's not 100% yes, it's a no. So that's the first thing. Otherwise, you have to do a really good no. But if you need to, you might say yes, but with conditions, like yes, but this is what I want to say this yes. Or you say, can I get back to you within 20? And you have to put a time frame which is within a week so you can actually sit with it and then get back to the person. And if then it's a no, still a no, then it's a no. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because people are afraid to make that decision and they'll sit in the maybe, but the maybe drains your energy. The maybe doesn't let you
So
step forward.
much.
Yes, exactly.
It causes paralysis because you know that you want to say no. You know
Exactly.
that. And
Yes.
you're afraid to say no.
And then how yucky does it feel when you say yes and you really wanted to say no, and then you change your mind later and then you feel like you've gone back on your word? So this is like
Mm-hmm.
about honoring yourself as much as that. And it's funny because I have to share this, but I like have non-negotiables. So one is like a Sunday. Sunday is my family day. Like unless I have something I can't change, like I've got a retreat coming up on a Sunday, so I have to do Sunday. But Sunday is
Right.
my non-negotiable family day. I don't do anything that day. I just hang out with my husband and my son. Like that's our day together. I don't go on the computer unless I absolutely have to. Like all these sorts of things. And the amount of pushback I got when I started to do that, it was like the universe was like, "All right, you've said this. Let's see if you're gonna uphold it."
Mm,
And and sometimes when those things come up, this is about us learning to honor what promises we make ourselves to ourselves as well.
absolutely.
And also that giving us that space to change, like we talked about earlier, because if you don't, acknowledge that you can change identity or you can change who you are, or you can, if you don't allow that flow and be open to that as well, and you get fixated and no, but this is who I said I was. It's like, well, actually, no, you shifted, and that's okay.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah,
God, I shift all the time. All the time.
exactly.
But also, like, if you think about what a kindness it is to have non negotiables, like, if I invite somebody to an opportunity, I want them to match my level of excitement. So, like, don't say yes and then come be like, not excited. I don't want that. So, that's what I try to think too when I'm struggling with saying no to something is like, I'm not going to match their energy. I'm not what they're looking for if I show up inauthentically. And it is inauthentic if I show up and do stuff I don't want to do. But it is a learning curve and we're going to do it sometimes. But you just have to learn from that and just not do it anymore because it's not just for you, it's for them too. Like nobody wants. I actually really struggle with that with my husband sometimes because he's such a people pleaser and he confuses that with niceness, like nice. Yes, you're nice. You're a very nice person. But this is manipulation. That's what people pleasing is. And also, like, I can't trust somebody who isn't super solid about their yeses and nos because there's still a lot of trauma that like will come up if I think that you're doing something you don't want to do because I can struggle with feeling like a burden or whatever else and I don't want to feel like the person I'm married to is storing up resentments. I mean, it's never come up or anything like that, but it's still a thing for me. I can't trust you as much when I don't see you being true to yourself.
Yeah. And it's funny when you step into your clear yes and no's, how those around you don't know how to take you because they're so used to you being the people pleaser or used to you complying or used to you just not saying anything that when you do speak up and you do come in from this really heartfelt place, they don't know what to do. And that's okay too. You have to give them that
Yeah.
space to not know what to do.
Yeah, that's been a new lesson for me too, is to get so comfortable with not just me being messy, but other people too. Because for so long, I didn't realize that I was expecting perfection out of these people too, because I had held myself to that standard. Not because I felt like I was doing everything perfectly, but A, I was trying, and B, I would crucify myself when I didn't. So, like, that's fine if you make a mistake, but can you go ahead and crucify yourself for that? Because that's what I would do, and that's what I expected you. Thanks. And none of that's fair. And so the more okay I am with me being messy, the more I'm okay with when I do set a boundary or tell a truth or whatever it is, and I'm in the presence of someone else and their reciprocation is kind of negative or just triggered, that would have made me push you away for the rest of my life before. And now I'm really okay with just, I don't absorb that, but but I know what's happening. That isn't about me. That's about them and their comfort and them growing and whatever. So I don't take that stuff personally anymore either. But I'm okay with just sitting there and like, get it out, get it out. Okay, now your trigger is gone. Like, are you want to deal with this now? I needed that grace too, and nobody extended it to me. So I'm finally glad to have understood what it was I was needing in that moment and how to give that to others.
And it's so often we go in and react from our ego, and instead of looking for a win-win-win, we go in for a I must win, and when you step back from that and realize, no, actually, like we need a win-win-win, especially if you're in a relationship or you're with your child or whatever it might be, you actually have to put the ego to the side and learn how to have really deep conversations. And that is such a problem in society, is we've forgotten how to listen to people, like really listen to people.
Well, I think that we are all dismissive of
Mm.
others, and that's because we don't know how to sit with somebody in pain or discomfort because we've never acknowledged our own stuff. And so I think like even with my kids, my oldest is 11 years older than my youngest, and he's very dismissive of her sometimes because they're exactly alike. So like he sees things like when she's upset, he doesn't like the way it makes him feel. So he's like trying to poo poo on
Reflection.
what she's feeling. And I'm like, A, you could walk away from this entire situation. You wouldn't even know she was upset. Like, let's not minimalize and trivialize other people's experiences just because you don't like the way you feel, you know? And I saw myself. That's when I realized too, like I used to dismiss the hell out of all you guys. Not on purpose and not in a mean way. I was more like, let's go buy some ice cream. That'll make it better. Like how can I buy your love with food or, clothing or whatever. But like that was because I didn't know how to sit with them when they were having really big feelings. Now I
Mm.
do, so I can just sit there and acknowledge and work through it with you. But before it was very like people are starving in China, so I just don't know why you got to worry about that.
And I guess, yeah, I love that. It's just like, again, until you know better, you don't do better, right? But at the same time, it's like we got to be okay being uncomfortable, because we so want this like easy, comfy life, but you don't grow as a soul, you don't evolve as a person when you're in the comfortable. You have to go into the uncomfortable. And it's funny because I have this person who was messaging me, he's quite influential and connected. And I was like, I heard, tell him about your book.
You're like, I don't want to.
And I was just like, and then it's like, no, just do it. And I was like, what have I got to lose? Worst case, and I didn't dump it on him. I said, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It actually made me think like that's what I'm actually trying to do. I've just released my book and I'm really excited. I didn't say anything else. And he's like, tell me all the details. And I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for letting me do that. So, I guess it's also, you have to learn how to not just dump things on people and actually find that middle ground and that permission, and
Absolutely.
like you said, if you're trying to bury it in food, that can be a flag that maybe you need to sit
Oh,
down and
honey.
just accept it.
All the time. Well, I tell this story sometimes where when my grandma, who was my primary caregiver most of my childhood, when she died in 15, there had been so much turmoil in the family and a bunch of stupid dynamics. And I thought because I had worked full time in hospice as a social worker for a really long time and had already experienced so much loss that this was just going to be fine. I had no idea how to deal with it. I didn't know where to put anything that I was feeling. I became a very reactive, like much more. I was always reactive, but I was like a hair trigger then. And binge eating donuts. I mean, eating so many full size donuts. It was unreal because I just didn't know how to experience those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. I just keep hearing, I don't know if you watch the show Ted Lasso, but he says be curious and not judgmental. And I think sometimes if
Mm-hmm.
we need to adapt that for every aspect of our life, why is that actually happening to me? And we had this discussion with my little one. He's like 8. He likes to blame things like all the time. I was like, where is this from? Because I'm not that person. Like I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. But that's his journey too. And, the blaming, I said to him, you don't always have to blame something. Sometimes things just happen. Like he's like, what? I said, sometimes things just happen and we have to say, what has this taught me? And he's like, whoa, like, so it's still unpacking that with him and getting him to understand that. But the blame has turned down, which has been great since we started asking these questions instead. So I
Getting
feel
curious, yeah, it's a big deal.
exactly. And I feel as we start to finish our time together, because I'm conscious we could just keep talking. I asked the guests that come on my show, Melissa, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. As a collective, this is what I would love to see changed. It's probably twofold. And one is our complete inability to be emotionally available with ourselves and others. We don't know how to experience feelings, and we think that we are by overthinking them. I feel, and I'm like, no, that's a 30-word thought is what that is. That's not a feeling. So I would love if people could connect more, come home to their body. And then part of that, I think the biggest part of that, what we touched on a little bit, is that understanding that you're great, wonderful, perfect, exactly how you are. And when I say things like I'm perfect exactly how I am, that's a very triggering, activating statement to people, and I mean it, because I was designed to be very imperfect. We all were. And I am living well within that design because I'm really imperfect. But I finally got to the point where I said, oh, that was the whole point this whole time, was to realize I'm already all of the things that I've been working so hard to be. I'm just some things that I'm trying to unbecome too. But that doesn't outweigh the wonderful parts of me. And I don't have to fix anything to be great in this moment or any other moment. I can just show up and be 100% worthy and valuable no matter what, even when I'm messing up colossally. And I do. I lost my ever loving mind on the phone with a representative of a shady company the other day. I mean, lost it. And afterwards, I was like, I'm gonna forgive myself for that, because that was a heightened emotional state and I was dealing with some serious stuff, and it is what it is. Accountability doesn't mean shaming yourself to death. So start calling out all of the goodness and the gifts in yourself, because they're there and they're waiting to be acknowledged. So if we can come home to ourselves and love ourselves, that's the key to world change, I really believe. Because when you start to get really soft with yourself and you don't hold yourself to impossible standards anymore, you are not able to hold others to those standards anymore either. You are not. And when you get really comfortable with being however messed up of a human you may think you are, whatever it is, maybe you're just tired of playing small, whatever it is, speak your truth, because that's where all your magic is. And I believe that we can see the humanity in others so much better when we start to recognize it in ourselves.
Well said, Melissa. Well said.
Thank you.
And if people want to come find you, listen to your podcasts, work with you, connect with you, where can they go?
I'm very active on Instagram, so at melissa.hepner, and my link tree is on there for every link to my website, different places to listen to the podcast. My website has how to contact me, but I'm also super available on my DMs, so Instagram's probably the best place.
Perfect. And I will hook up with you on Instagram too if we're not already. I think we might be. I don't know. Anyway, but
I don't know, but we should be, now that we're
we
new
should
best
be
friends.
exactly.
So we will be soon.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, Melissa, and thank you so much for sharing your journey and your insights and just being you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.